Hello, everybody. Welcome back to TMR's Master Advisor Series. Today is December 4th, 2025, if you can believe it. Really excited for today's episode. We're going to be talking about building a marketing action plan today, a little social media, a little email marketing. So we have a ton to get to. But I have some announcements, as always, just want to run us through first. Today is the last Master Advisor of 2025. I just want to take a couple minutes just to thank Tom McCarthy, who's unrelated to me, but is really instrumental in this program, who's in the chat if you see him. Tom's been great this year, helping us organize these and helping us run these on this platform. So thanks, Tom. I want to thank all the sponsors we've had this year, and the guests as well. We couldn't do without any of them. And last, I just want to thank the 15,000 or so travel advisors who have joined us live throughout this year. It's really been a great year for TMR, a really great year for the industry, but I think a great year for Master Advisor too. So thank you to everyone. We'll be back in 2026, so don't worry. Keep an eye out for announcements. Keep an eye out for a new episode, guests, things like that. But just again, thank you to everyone, and we'll see you in 2026. Last plug of the year too. I always plug our YouTube. I'm going to do it one more time. If you want to rewatch today's episode, if you want to rewatch any of the episodes we've done throughout the year, you can head over to our YouTube channel. It hosts all of our video, audio and video. It's all over there. All of that content. You can watch it for free on demand whenever you want. Subscribing, liking the videos always helps us continue to build this community. So if you do go over there, you have the time to click, please do. I want to plug one other thing. The last 6 months or so, I've been writing a weekly newsletter on LinkedIn. Just something really easy you can digest on Friday mornings. I want to throw the link for that in there too. That's kind of been a labor of love for me. Another touch point for the audience for TMR. If you have LinkedIn, if you feel like subscribing to a newsletter that will not fill up your inbox, you're only going to get it via LinkedIn once a week. It has all the firings, all the hirings, all the executive moves, all the major news from suppliers too. Please subscribe to that. I think Tom is throwing the link into the chat as we speak. All right. So with that all out of the way, I really have no more announcements. I'll say it at the end of the session, but again, it's been so enjoyable to be a part of this community throughout this year. It's really a special time for Tom and I to be able to spend this hour with you every few weeks or every couple weeks or however the schedule works out. So thank you again. Happy holidays to everyone in advance. And again, we'll see you in 2026. All right. So with that all out of the way, I want to welcome our sponsor for today's episode. We're really happy to have Michelle Pinard, the creative director from Branch Up here to sort of kick us off today. Michelle, thank you so much for taking your time and spending your Thursday with us as well.
I'm totally taken aback by the fact that this is your last show of the year. I'm honored to be at the corner of that one. Thank you very much, Tom, Dan. Appreciate you guys every day. And we're the sponsor, Branch Up, of course. We've been around since 2015 doing social media for travel advisors, as you're probably aware. But without further ado, what I'm going to do is say I'm absolutely thrilled to be sponsoring this and introducing our featured guest today. He's a great friend and a longtime member of the Branch Up family. And I want to introduce you to Philip Archer from Roaming Richly Travel. Philip is truly one of our pioneers and our early adopters, actually, at Branch Up. He signed up with us back in 2019, and he's been building an incredible business ever since. Excuse me. He always brings a fresh perspective and fantastic insights, which is why it's no surprise that he is being featured with Tom in this Travel Market Report, the Master Advisor Series. So as you know, Philip is going to be sharing some of his core strategies for growth with you today, including marketing, with a focus on building a thriving travel business through enlisting your sphere of influence. Philip, that was a mouthful. So get ready to take notes, and please feel free to ask questions. Philip loves answering questions. And with that, I will back off and bring you into Philip's world. And thank you so much for being here again.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
Michelle.
much for that wonderful introduction, Michelle. Boy, you can do that again if you'd like. It's like coffee in the morning. Yeah.
So, Philip, you've been a branch up subscriber since 2019. I know that's pretty significant because I know the company has grown pretty wildly since 2019. So, yeah, I did not know that. That's 6 years.
It's crazy. And what's been really, really cool is just to watch the growth of the company.
Yeah.
When we first started, it was like, can we do something, to help me promote myself on social media? And then it was like, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to post? And just seeing the growth of the company and the way it's changed, being able to add in things like, the other, I remember saying, can we get this on to do my LinkedIn too? And now, it's LinkedIn and, all the other, great, wonderful things. You've got your Instagram, you've got your Reels, you've got all sorts of cool stuff that we've integrated into the product through, them listening to people like me, travel agents, and the rest of our wonderful travel agent advisory board over at Branch App. So been a great ride.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so let's just take a minute. I want to give you a little time to introduce yourself, Philip. I know this is a topic we're focusing on today that you've been passionate about throughout your career, both in travel and outside of travel. I was hoping you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, and then tell us a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today.
Sure. Well, most of the people here are travel agents, or all of them are travel agents, and they know me from Roaming Richly Travel. I'm the founder and chief experience designer here at Roaming Richly. But, I literally started my entrepreneurial career back in 1986, 1987, luxury real estate. I spent 35 years in luxury real estate, which I just retired from last December. And so, I've done a lot of different things. I've owned a PR firm. I've owned, marketing companies, the real estate division. Obviously, I had a mortgage company at one time, a radio and
Gosh.
television show in Dallas when I was there. And 20 years ago, I bought Roaming Richly Travel. And so, one of the things that I have found about business in general is that you can build businesses two different ways. You can build a business really, really fast and hope it doesn't burn out, or you can build a business based on relationships that builds a little bit slower and is one that has supported me over my 35-year career. So, what we're going to be talking about today is literally building that rapport and those relationships that are going to propel you as a business person through your career. And they're applicable to many different things. Like I said, I used to do this, train people in real estate on this before I ever even thought about, buying a travel agency. But it's been a wonderful system for me, and it's grown through the years because 20 years ago we weren't really talking that much about social media and things of that nature, and they're top of mind now. It's super, super important for you to be visible there. So that's a little bit about me, and here I am today.
Yeah.
Got my VTA last year or earlier this year. I'm so excited about that. But I'm just out there, focusing on luxury travel these days.
Yeah, I mean, really a renaissance man. You go through your career, like you've worn many hats, and I'm gonna try to get some of your personal time because that just I've never heard. I've heard of resumes, but that's quite a resume, Philip. So we'll have to connect after this to talk a little bit about that. But let's I'm gonna try to keep us on topic. Let's talk about launching a marketing plan, sort of establishing an online presence, things like that. I know a lot of advisors on this call or on this episode came here because they wanted help with social media. I wanted to sort of start there.
Cool.
Figuring out where to be on social media online, I know is a big task. There seems to be new platforms popping up all the time. How do you approach social media? And if you were starting an agency now and just starting getting your feet under you in this industry, what would your approach be for social media?
Absolutely. So the first thing I will tell you is, this is great for people who are just starting out, but if you have not been involved in social media, or if you're at like that 7-year mark in your career or the 14-year mark, if you're anybody who deals with the public, you've got to reinvent yourself every 7 years. So it's never a bad time to just adopt this strategy and start it. In fact, I'm starting it again this year myself. because it's just time for me to liven things up a little bit. And we're moving into an uncertain time in the market, so we don't know what's going on. So why not be building our business bigger? Worst thing that can happen is you have to hire an assistant to help you. But the very first thing that you want to do is you want to create a professional and credible persona. You want to be, you are a brand as a travel agency. It doesn't matter if you belong to a brand or if you don't belong to a brand, like a larger host agency. You are the brand. People do business with people they know, they like, and they trust. And it's important for you to establish rapport with as many people as you can. The first thing you have to do is you have to have a place for people to go to learn about you. And so everyone should have a LinkedIn profile. Everyone should have a Facebook business page, not just your personal page, but a business page for your travel agency or your travel agency. You should have Instagram. You should do stuff on YouTube, and you should use Pinterest. The biggies today are still literally Facebook and YouTube are by far the biggies out there. So if you're not involved in those, you're really, really missing out. I also think that it's essential for you to have a LinkedIn profile because it gives you credibility and it shows that you're a professional and that you're not just somebody dilly-dallying around, saying, oh, look at this fun trip that I'm going on. So I think those are essential. If you were to ask me what three we start with, you would start with LinkedIn, a Facebook business page, and then throwing some videos out there on YouTube. So that's the first thing that you need to do. Once you've done that, you're going to be able to enlist some great programs to help you make those things work for you. So for example, your LinkedIn profile will also allow BranchUp to post for you and Rallyo to post for you. Your Facebook business page, again, BranchUp and Rallyo will post automatically to those for you. Instagram, BranchUp and Rallyo will post automatically for you. TikTok, Rallyo will post to your TikTok. So there are places where you can go and not get overwhelmed. When you start doing this, you've got to give yourself, maybe an hour a day to work on this marketing part of your business, and then spend the other 7 hours, actually selling travel. But that's where you need to start. And BranchUp has a great educational template to show you how to do a Facebook business page, and things of that nature. So if you're wondering how to do that, they've got some great resources there just to show you how to do it.
So we've done some social media sessions in the past, and like Facebook is obviously the one stressed the most, but YouTube is, like, you saying YouTube is important really caught my ear. I'm curious, like why? Go ahead.
Yeah, if you look at the numbers, YouTube is really a big player. I've been waiting for TikTok to blow YouTube, and Facebook out of the water. But if you look at, North American users, the numbers are just huge for Facebook and YouTube. So, the vast majority of Americans utilize those tools on a regular basis. And so, I'm not telling you not to be other places. I'm just telling you, if you've got a product and you want to put it in front of the most people, you need to be putting it on the platforms where the most people go. So does that make sense?
That makes sense. I'm curious, like, we have about 90 advisors with us. Does anyone here use YouTube regularly as a content producer? Because I know everyone uses it as a content, aggregator. But like, What do you use it for? Like, what kind of stuff do you usually put on YouTube, Philip? And then, like, what kind of success have you had on that platform?
Literally, I would say that any organic material that I create that is just created me is going to be produced in YouTube and then shared other places. And I will tell you, I'm the worst at promoting my YouTube. So I literally have YouTube as a repository, and I'm there, and people can go, to my YouTube channel and like see, an inspiration, section that's got a bunch of travel videos. But, that is my next big one to hit, is, to actually work on putting together more of a YouTube channel. And I would probably be using that for, more of a podcast like we're doing here, that's actually not just, oral, but is also videos.
So I see some comments in the chat, and one from Joy. I'll pop that up on the screen. This is what I always get when I talk to advisors about YouTube. It's either I'm not good at doing videos, or I don't feel comfortable doing videos. Like, what do you say when you get this kind of pushback?
Everybody says I'm not good at video or I don't like doing video. And I want to remind those of you who remember, and if you don't, Google her, Julia Childs. And she was on TV cooking live all the time, and she would drop stuff. She's always got her wine there, very casual. And I mean, she'd drop something on the floor and go, oh, kiss it up to God. So this is what I have learned. I have over the past 30 odd years, I had a radio and television show, so I'm very, very well aware of how how it works to put together a professional segment on something. What you have to remember is that you're wanting to build rapport with people, so you want them to see you in all light. So believe it or not, my videos where I drop something or screw something up get way more views than my videos that come across as highly scripted. So you'll see me usually when I get to a new island or something, I'll just pop up on my phone and go, hey, everybody, it's Philip. And look, here I am in Tortola today, and it's beautiful and it's warm. And I just got off this super yacht. And oh my gosh, don't you want to be here? Right? It doesn't have to be a hugely scripted event. You just want people to get to know you and get to know what you do. So I would tell people, don't be afraid. Take a couple of goes at it, pick the best one, throw it up there and see what happens. My two biggest videos are one where I walk out on the front of a Hurtigruten ship, the Fram, outside of a bird colony in the Canadian Arctic, and you can't hear a word that I'm saying. It's literally me going, right?
Yeah.
Huge. It got, tons of shares. And the other one was when I was on The Allure before Oprah when it came out, and I was on the pre-inaugural, and I did the rock climbing wall because nobody had ever, it was like, this is a cool new thing. Did the rock climbing wall. They didn't remember when I got to the bottom to stop filming me, and it was Facebook Live. And I made some rather catty comments about the way the equipment cramps you up when you're trying to crawl up a wall. And again, that's crazy. So don't be afraid. It's you're just showing people, you're just giving people a window into your personality.
Yeah, and I see we have some other comments about questions about YouTube. I'll maybe take this one from Tisha, but we had a couple, and I'll see if Tom can find the video. But we had a couple who own an agency on early this year, and they pretty much built their business on YouTube.
Yep.
Mostly it was doing vlogs, like travel vlogs, and then
Mhm.
they talked about how they wouldn't really sell on these videos. It would all be about, like what you mentioned, establishing a rapport, because basically people want to book with them because they like them. Like it was simple as that. Like they got to know them through these blogs, and they liked doing them, and they wanted to work with them, and they wanted them to be their representatives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the key. That is the key. Is letting people know who you are. And I don't even call us, we call ourselves experienced designers at Roaming Richly Travel. So we don't call ourselves travel agents or salespersons. I mean, we are accredited travel agents, but and real estate as well. People always used to talk to me and say, oh, one of the best real estate salesmen in luxury real estate in the country. And I'm like, I'm not really a salesman. I'm a matchmaker. It's like I meet clients, I get to know them and what their needs are, and then I match them with a product that's going to help them achieve their goals. And that's what we are. I mean, people can call us salespeople all day long, but we really are just experts on a huge network of products. And our job is to drill those products down so that we can provide a few options to our client that more closely meet their goals.
And I do think with AI, like making things so easy for people who maybe aren't involved in the travel agency space yet when they're booking their travel, you want to appear like a real person. Like people are going to want the real person touch. Yeah.
Well, and you hear all the stuff now where people go, "Oh, that's AI." Right.
Yeah.
And it's like AI is a dirty word. Right. And so, but nobody wants, nobody is like, going to the robot from Lost in Space and asking him to book their travel. Right. I mean, they're just not. That's not something that can get to know them. And AI is never going to replace people like us. I mean, I don't care how smart the computers get, they're not going to be able to notice when your skin tone changes when I bring up a line and automatically be able to say, or maybe not, the AI is just not going to be that great. I mean, maybe it will, who knows, but probably not while we're alive. So, let's not worry about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say never. I'd never say never, but I completely agree with you. But all right. So LinkedIn, you mentioned LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. You want a personal brand. You want a connection with your audience. You want to use it as a trust builder, but obviously also an audience builder as well. So I think that's a good place to start. And you mentioned Branch Up, obviously, Railio. These things can help automate this thing for you, because I know it's a big task for a lot of advisors to be everywhere all at once.
Absolutely.
But, yeah.
And it's like, I will just tell you, if you're selling $1 million worth of travel a year like I am, I don't have a whole lot of time. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I spend an hour every morning reading industry stuff. So I'm up on the industry so that somebody asks me a question, I can answer it. And then I work all day. And so I don't have a ton of time to be on these social networks. And if you were to ask my 3,500, 3,800 followers, like how much time Philip spends on social media, they would be like, Philip is always on social media all the time. And I'm really not. Like, I mean, I have a joke that nobody likes, but 9 times out of 10, if I'm on social media posting, I'm at a red light, I'm waiting for a doctor's appointment, or I'm in the toilet, right? So, I mean, I just don't, I give myself 1 hour a day for social media, and that's everything. And I usually don't ever use it. It doesn't usually take that much time. So using the stuff that's out there that the industry's building for us. If you sell a lot of Royal Caribbean, Royal Caribbean is building social media stuff for you to use. They're building it with Branch Up and other people, so that all we have to do is point and click and use that and personalize it a little bit. So these are great things. I would not be able to do what I do today without Branch Up, Rallyo, approach guides, and social media. And we've talked a little bit about, you need to have a place for people to land. Now you got to figure out who are you going to invite, right? And
Okay.
so, the typical person knows 250 people. And, a lot of y'all are sitting there going, there's no way I know 250 people. Well, yeah, you probably get your hair done. You probably get your nails done. You probably, know your postman, your UPS store guy. You've got a realtor. You've got somebody who sold you your car. You've got your insurance agent. You know people. And not only that, they know people. And, I'm going to date myself again, Dan, but there used to be, a shampoo commercial that was like, and she knew 2 friends, and so on and so on and so on. And it was like people would talk about, how beautiful her hair was. And then she'd go, oh, well, I use this shampoo. And then they told 2 friends. So if you can just make a list of 250 people, and just sit down and think of like where you go to church, where your kids go to school. Susie's mom loves to travel, right? In the summer. So family vacations, right? Just start making a list. Your friends, your family, your hairdresser, your teachers, your realtor, your insurance agent. And then who do they know? Start building that list. And when you have a list of 250 people, it's time for you to reach out to those people and go, hey, guess what? I'm not just always on a fabulous ship or island. I can actually help you make this happen for you. I used to always say, my tagline was leading the way to your dreams, and now a lot of times you'll hear me say, we can take you there. So, with somebody, will comment on one of my Branch Up posts for a major cruise line, and they'll go, oh, I heard about that. And I go, hey, we can take you there. And so those little things, start reminding people. You want to be top of mind when somebody's at a Christmas party and talking about travel, so that your realtor can say, hey, guess what, I know somebody who can help you book that travel. It's like, you just sold your house, you need a vacation because you've been through it, right? So you need to call Philip, and Philip is going to send you on an amazing trip, right?
Yeah.
Build your list. That would be your sphere. Your sphere of influence is going to be your friends, your family, your contractors, your vendors, people that you see on a regular basis. Just try to make a list of everybody that you saw this week. Starting on Monday morning, who's the first person you saw? The barista at Starbucks, who's second? Who's third? Oh, I went to the UPS store, or I went by the post office, or I went and got my hair done, and just start drawing out your list. And then you want to invite those people to follow you on social media. But I want you to take it a step further. I think it's really super important for you to introduce yourself to them in a way that does also introduce the fact that you have something to offer them. And so I would put together a letter, an actual letter in the snail mail. I know this is crazy, but put together a letter and send that letter to 250 people with your business card, and just let them know in the letter, say, hey, you know what? I'm really working hard to grow my business, and I would love for you to be part of that process. We've known each other, for a number of years through networking or whatever, going to school together. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew that one of my passions in life was giving people like you and your friends an incredible experience and planning a great adventure for them somewhere in the world. Send out that letter, and then you literally need to, 2 weeks after you send out those letters, you need to be ready to start making phone calls, because you're going to follow up with an actual phone call. I know. Phone call.
Okay.
For real, right? And if you 9 out of 10 times, you're going to get voicemail, and you're just going to already know, you'll have a little script written that says, this is what I say, hey, Dan, I'm sorry I missed you. It's Philip Archer. I just wanted to make sure you got my letter letting you know about my travel business, and letting you know that we are taking on new clients, and that we would love to, have a conversation with you about how we might be able to help you or your friends enjoy some incredible experiences. Do 10 of those calls 5 days a week. In the 6 weeks, you're going to have so much business, you won't know what to do with it. And this has worked across many different types of businesses: real estate, travel, mortgage. I've used it for all kinds of people. And I will tell you, I will never forget my real estate career. When I was on the executive team for Coldwell Banker, I got a phone call and they were like, nobody's ever had 2 candidates for Rookie of the Year in one office before. We don't usually allow it. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you allow it? And they're like, well, because it doesn't look good, right? And I'm like, well, I can't help it if my 2 rookies are better than everybody else in the company. You should let them duke it out. And they did. And both of them had used the system, and they were literally the number 1 and number 2 Rookie of the Year for the company, because they did it. And so it really does work. And it's still, I talked to one of them a week and a half ago. I was doing a referral with him, and he's like, Philip, I still do it. I still every once in a while sit down and do my 10-a-days. That's what we call them, is my 10-a-day calls. Just track them. And the other thing that's great about it is it's going to tell you, if you make 10 calls and you get 1 person on the phone that ends up doing something with you, that means that you're a 10-1, which will be really, really good. Give yourself a little while to get there. But that means that if you need more business, you got to make at least 10 calls, right? So you'll figure out what your average is, and then you'll realize, oh, I've got through my list of 250 people this month. I need 250 more people. So, while you're doing it, you're grabbing business cards, you're going to meetings to meet with people, you're going to your chamber events, you're going to the museum, you're meeting people, you're collecting the information, you're sending them a letter letting them know about your business. And then you're going to do your 10-a-day calls. And just ask people what, my 10-a-day calls are usually like, Dan, how's it going? What's the weather like? Right? I don't call you and go, Dan, do you want to buy a vacation?
Yeah.
So you get to know them. How are the kids? How is the dog? The end of your conversation is when you go, hey, listen, do you know anybody who's really, really been talking about going on a trip? And Dan goes, oh, yeah, I was talking to Tom yesterday, and Tom was like, I need to go on a family vacation. Well, Dan, would you make an introduction for me? So you need to build that sphere, work that sphere regularly, and then keep adding to your list.
Yeah. I want to, first of all, if anyone has any questions for Philip, I should have said at the beginning, drop them in the chat. And I know I dragged some up earlier, but please, don't be shy. So I have a couple comments and a couple questions for you, Philip.
Sure.
You mentioned sphere of influence. I've heard that a number of times this year, and I don't think people realize, one, just how important the sphere of influence is when you're starting a travel career, and 2, just how big your sphere of influence actually is. Like a lot of people take those interactions, like you mentioned, the postman, the barista, you take those interactions for granted, but they're part of that sphere of influence. And I know 250 seems like a lot of people, and I guess it is. But I think most people can pretty easily get there when they really think about who they talk to, who they interact with, who they know online in real life, IRL too. I think that's a really doable thing for people.
Absolutely, it is. And we don't hear people talking about sphere of influence. Sphere of influence has been around forever. Like I've never not had a conversation about sales or about a business where we don't talk about our sphere of influence.
Yeah.
I think the reason that we've gotten away from hearing sphere of influence is now we have, and I'm not dogging influencers. Please do not think that. I don't want people to call me an influencer. I'm a person with influence. But I think there's a really, really vast difference between people who are good at networking and people who are influencers. And we have different jobs. Influencers are basically today's modern marketing firms, right? So years ago, we would hire a marketing or advertising firm to promote us. These days, people hire influencers to do that. So it's just a modern take on marketing advertising. A person who is, a trusted advisor has a sphere of people who know them, like them, want to do business with them, want to refer their friends to. I have financial advisors who refer people to me all the time. Great lawyers that refer to people to me all the time. So, when you're building your business and building your sphere, you want to think about people, number one, that who know other people and who also, rely on networking and rapport building to get business. And you will find that, your realtors, your mortgage people, your attorneys, your insurance agents, they all get this. And, you'll find that, y'all start referring business back and forth to each other. So, I talk to my accountant much more about, hey, Bob, I've got a new client for you than I do, Bob, it's time for you to go on a vacation, right? So, and it's because we're great referral partners. I refer him business, he refers me business. We know how each other works. As you build your sphere, you're going to find that some people are clients, but some people are salespeople. And so you're building a sales team that can be places that you can't be all the time. If you've got a great friend who's on the board of the museum who goes to all the events and they're talking about your business there, you've got a sales team that you're not even paying for. Your payment to them is just keeping them informed about what's going on with your career. Maybe taking them out to dinner every once in a while. I have an annual party where I invite my sphere to, and we, have a little mixer. I used to do dinners. My dining room table that now lives with my niece because it won't fit in my tiny house in California, is literally referred to in Dallas as $1 billion table. Because I used to invite 10 people to my home every Friday, and we had dinner together, and I literally introduced people to each other. It was all about getting to know each other and each other's business. And, over the years, it became kind of famous, and people are like, have you sat at the $1 billion table, right? Hey, it was a great table. But there are great ways for you to build your sphere and to interact with people, and it's actually fun. You get to know people, you get to know their kids, you get to know where they're going to college. What's really fun is when one of your network people, you get a phone call because their kids in college and they're like, hey, I met so-and-so's parents and they're looking for a travel agent.
That is fun. Yeah.
But they just know. So, you've got to start somewhere. So just start with a really good list of 250 people.
All right. So 250 people. Initially, you want the snail mail. Like someone said in the chat, you want to mail an actual letter. Follow up with your phone calls. Have your script ready, both if they odd chance they pick up the phone, or probably more likely you get voicemail. Keep track of your calls, get your success rate, and then you can sort of use that to build your business in the future. I'm curious, Philip, like what about, we always talk about, I think the term we always use is qualifying. I
Yes.
think people use the term discovery questions.
Mm-hmm.
Any suggestions about discovery questions or qualifying questions when you do have that initial call, or when you are getting the follow-up call and people do seem interested in using you as an advisor or as an experience creator, like you mentioned?
Absolutely. So there are some things that are an absolute must every contact you make. So the very first thing that you need to remember is, when you're having a good conversation with somebody, ask them, "Hey, do you mind if I put you on my email list? I've got a Branch Up newsletter that comes out every 2 weeks, with travel inspiration. People love it. Would you like to be on that list?" Absolutely. What's that email address? And you write it down. The second thing, hey, I also just want to let you know that I also put a magazine out 4 times a year. This is done by my consortia, right? And everybody that either refers business to me or that goes on a trip with me gets a 1 year free subscription to that. Would you like to maybe have a year subscription to that? Absolutely. Can I get your mailing address, right? And the third thing that you need to remember to do is if they haven't asked you to do something for them, is before you end that conversation, you go, "Dan, do you know anybody who maybe needs a vacation? You know, I do know somebody. Well, would you mind, making an introduction or giving them a call or letting me reach out to them or finding out if it'd be okay if I reached out to them?" Absolutely. It's if you do not ask for the business when you're ending that call, then all you've done is called somebody and chit chatted. You need to ask for the business. You'll be shocked at how often you will get it. It may be 2 years later, but you will get the business. So you always ask for the business. Ask for an email address, ask for the contact information, ask if you can put them on your list so that you can stay in touch, and then ask them if there's any business out there that they may know about. Those are essential. As far as qualifying questions, so I take a little bit different approach than a lot of people. A lot of people are like, "Let's get them sold right now. Let's log in and go into Cruise Power or First Mates and get them booked." That's not how I do it. I literally, somebody mentions to me, a question that leads me to believe that they actually want to do some travel. I literally schedule an appointment with them. I go, "Hey, listen, you know, could we schedule a time maybe later in the week where I could spend maybe 30 minutes on the phone with you and just kind of get to know your travel style a little better?" And I use that as an opportunity to say, anybody can book anything these days online. The what you're looking for from a travel professional is somebody who can actually go through all that minutia and narrow all of those opportunities to the ones that are more applicable to you. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to schedule an interview for us, and I'm literally going to ask you questions to help me define what your travel style is and what kind of trip might be appropriate for you. We all know that you can book travel for $3,000, you can book travel for $30,000, you can book travel for $300,000, and you can book travel for $3 million. The $3 million client is not the $3,000 client. They're two totally different things. And so, by scheduling an interview with somebody, number one, you find out how committed they are. If they're like, "I don't have time," then this is a warm lead, not a hot lead. If they schedule with you, that is a hot lead. You need to get them on the calendar as quickly as you can. And you need to sit down and do a thorough interview with them. I ask people, "Hey, what was the last hotel you stayed in? Did you like it? Is that the kind of hotel you'd like to stay in on this next adventure? Where have you been? Did you enjoy it? What are some vacations that you didn't like?" You need to know what they like and what they don't like. And that way you can go out and, it's kind of like test marketing. You come out with a new shampoo, you're going to have some people use it and let you know what they think. Well, I test the market with my client to find out what I think they're going to like and what they're not going to like. And then I send them some options and go, "Hey, give me some feedback. This is my first stab at this, but give me some feedback." And they come back and go, "Yeah, this is probably not the way we want to go. We want something more inclusive, or we want something a little bit more luxurious, or that's a little bit too much for our budget, you know." But that is what your interview is for. So definitely, listen for those questions that are going to let you know that it's not a cold or a warm lead, but a hot lead, and then get them scheduled on your calendar for a 30-minute interview.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I completely agree. One thing I want to mention too is, like you mentioned, what the sphere of influence does for you. I live in New York. This is kind of a cynical city. People still want to help each other like all the time. Like that's not really an unusual thing. So when you do have a business, when you are growing a business, and people hear about it and they kind of take a little stake in it, they are very anxious or very willing to help you out. So
They
don't be
are.
afraid to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, and share your goals. So one thing that I do every year is my first, communication with people of the year. So this will be coming up in January. I will literally say something like, "Hey, remember last year, guys, when I said I want to sell one river cruise every day of the it went great. This is what I did. This year, I want to sell one expedition cruise every week, right? And so, you set that goal. And so go. So if you know somebody who's really into cool, adventures, and they're ready to do a bucket list. Maybe they want to go to Antarctica, or they want to go to the North Pole, or maybe they want to go to the Galapagos or the Sea of Cortez, but they don't want to go on just a sit on the balcony and watch the surf go by. They want to actually get out and interact with the animals, and they want to know what the geology's like. It's like, if you're talking to somebody, remember, I want to do one of those a week this year. It's one of my favorite things to do. And out of nowhere, you're going to have people going, "Hey, our friends want to go on a safari to Africa." Okay, I can help them with that, right? But they need to know what you're investing in and which way you're going, and you got to mix it up. You don't want to tell them, "I want to do a river cruise every day this week for a year," because they're going to get bored with that.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right. So I see those questions. Hopefully, I'll get to those. I think we've gone through most of what we want to go through, Philip. The one thing I do want to ask, and you mentioned at the beginning of the call, approach guides. Like, how that's another tool sort of in your toolbox. I know you use pretty regularly.
Yeah.
What is approach guides for the people who maybe aren't familiar with it, and then how do you use it to engage your clients?
Sure. So, and I'll kind of run through that list again and tell you the whys. So,
Yeah.
Branch Up is my first go-to because all I have to do is set it and forget it, and it will actually publish for me. So it's the easiest. So I always start there, and it's going to post all kinds of different posts. It'll post some from specific vendors, and then it'll also we have inspirational posts. There are also reels of that nature. My second one would be Rallyo. It's mostly similar in that it will also post for me automatically, but there's also content in Rallyo that is more appropriate for you to post as generic content. So there's like some more blogish stuff and things like that. And then when you get to Approach Guides is going to be a very rich, luxurious form of posting, kind of like a blog post, but you have to individually post that to your different social media outlets. So I've always got Branch Up running because sometimes I don't have time to do Rallyo or Approach Guides, but the Branch Up's like snippets. It's like taste. Rallyo gets a little bit more into like an appetizer, and Approach Guide is going to be more like the 3-course meal. So, depending on what you're wanting to post, you might use content from different places, but they're all great places to go. So, when I have a client who's very high end, who is looking for a very thorough piece of information, I'm going to go to Approach Guides because it's going to be a really rich content experience for them. It's going to have some video. It's going to have some verbiage. It's going to go much more into detail into the product than you would get from maybe a short little post on Branch Up. Your Branch Ups are going to get a lot more views because they're short little snippets. My Branch Up posts get about, I think I just saw it last week, it's like 800% more views than my other posts. My Rallyo, you're going to get more shares. And then your Approach Guides, you're probably going to get more serious reach outs because they're going to know enough about what you're trying to show them by the time they've looked through that content. They're going to be calling and going, "Can you pull me pricing on this one, on this, this kind of cabin on this week?"
All right. All right. So we have some questions. I see the Rallyo. Yeah, I think Tanisha has it spelled correctly in the chat. So if you are new to Rallyo, I know, like Philip, like you, a lot of advisors are really, really fond of that tool.
Yeah.
2 questions in the chat we're going to tackle. I have one to wrap up with you, Philip, and then hopefully
Sure.
we'll get it done in the next few minutes. Let's do Caroline's first. And this is a question we used to always get. And I know this practice has become pretty normalized throughout the industry over the last probably 6 years. But she asked about planning fees. I mean, do you have a philosophy on planning fees? Is that something that is a big part of your business? That's something you feel comfortable even sharing with us?
I have a philosophy about planning fees. So I'm very fortunate. I've been doing this for 20 years. I can smell a tire kicker like from go. So, I know what those people are, what they're doing. I know when somebody's calling to pump me for information. And so in general, my clients who've been around for 20 years, I know they're going to book with me. I don't need to charge them a fee. But something very interesting, I have a lot of clients who actually work in fields where they have to travel a lot for business, and they call me and go, how can I maximize this? And I'm like, hey, pick your favorite hotel, pick your favorite vendors, and utilize their plans. And then when you've got 1 million Marriott miles, call me, because for $350 an hour I can plan your travel with your Marriott miles. So I do it a little bit differently. My hourly fee based on my income is $350 an hour. And I have clients who call me and go, okay, you booked the river cruise for me. We want to spend 2 weeks in Germany after that, and I want to use my Marriott miles. And I'm like, great, let's figure out where you want to go. And then I sit down and I put together our itinerary. They go book it with their miles, and they write me a check for my hourly, rate. So my last client that did that wrote me a check for $350. She literally saved $9,000 on her trip by using her miles. She used her miles for her rental car, her hotels, everything along the way. And so for her, she's like, it's a no-brainer. I do the same thing with people who I don't know. If people have an interview with me and they're not really sure, I go, hey, listen, let's just make it really easy. You can give me a $350 retainer, and I'll look at booking this travel for you. And if it works out and I get paid for it, that's great. Your retainer will be here for the next time you want to book travel with me. If it doesn't, I'll use that retainer to, counter the amount of time, and if it's going to be more than an hour that I think I'm going to need to get started, I'll say 700. Or if it's 4 hours, I'll say 1400, but I call it a retainer like an attorney. And it's basically a planning fee, but I apply it based on whether or not they book with me. So I literally look at my time invested, my income, and if there's a difference, I'll use part of the retainer for that. And then it stays on file with us, forever. So if they've used it before, then they get to put up another retainer. If they haven't used it, it's there.
All right. All right. The other one I wanted to ask about, and again, this might not be something that's relevant to you, but Sheila asked about groups. I know we don't have that. I know we've done full episodes on groups, and we haven't tackled everything we need to tackle. But it's like, do you do a lot of groups, and do you promote them the same way you promote your brand?
We do groups, and I actually, in my email signature, have all of my future travel, including our groups, for the year. I try to do 2 to 3 groups a year, and I've changed the way I did it. When I first started my business, I was turning 40, and I invited everybody I knew to go on a 40th birthday cruise. And so my first group was 55 people on a princess ship down to the Western Caribbean, right? And that's how I got my teeth cut doing groups. In my business, it is very difficult for me to do a group on a mass market product and make the kind of money that I'm used to. So you'll notice that my groups may be like, I'm doing a group on the Emerald Azura in March. It's only 100 guests. It's a different price point. But I'm also doing a group next fall on the Brilliant Lady of Mexican Riviera. Very approachable. Great product. And it's something, my groups have evolved a little bit more from let's pick something that everybody likes to I'm getting ready to get into my 6th decade, and I don't want to go somewhere that everybody likes. I want to go where I like. So I pick what I like, and I go, come with us. And so like we're doing Alaska on the Queen Elizabeth next year, and we've got lots of people that wanted to go with us. And so I actually call my groups, if it's a hosted group, it's called Roaming with Us. And Kevin and I do a little video, and we say, hey, come with us to the Yachtman Discovery cruise on the Emerald Azura next year, or, come with us to Alaska on the Queen Elizabeth, or come with us to the Mexican Riviera. So I do them. And I think that's also a really, really great way for you to build your sphere, is by traveling with these people. You also get to know their travel, desires intimately. So the more that you can know your client, the better, because you're going to be able, I've got clients now that just go, well, my number one client, she has her financial advisor meet with me once a year. And then I just tell her where she's going. So I have a budget. I know her that well. We talk all the time. I know what's on her bucket list. And I'm like, this is a great deal. You're a solo traveler. You need to do this one now. Boom, boom, boom. So we're already booking 2027 for her. And I mean, literally, it's like, where am I going in 2027? I'm like, well, I was thinking this, this, and this. That life sounds great. Okay. I booked 3 things for her yesterday. So absolutely.
All right. All right. So last one for me, and then I promise we'll wrap up. At the beginning of the call, you mentioned reinventing yourself every 7 years, or reinventing your brand every 7 years. I just want to give you like a minute to maybe expound on that, because that seems really interesting to me, because I know a lot of advisors are in this for the long haul, and reinventing yourself maybe is something we should talk about a little more as an industry.
Well, I think it's important, in real estate, I learned very early on. I was a 19-year-old male in an office where the average person was a 67-year-old female. Okay. And we had 50 agents, right? My dad was in real estate. And so I actually grew up with all these ladies. So it was like growing up, going to work with your moms. But, most people get into business and they only want to learn to do it one way. And one way lasts for about 7 years. It's kind of like your taste buds. Your tastes actually change every 7 years because your taste buds change. And so people's taste change, life changes, the way we do things changes. When I started in real estate, we didn't have lock boxes or MLS, and so, a lot of things changed over the years. When I started in travel, we were not using social media nearly as much 20 years ago, things of this nature. It was a lot more snail mail and things of that nature. So, it's changed a lot. So we have to change with that. You need to spend an hour a day educating yourself about what's going on in your industry. And yeah, when you start feeling like, I'm feeling a little bit, creaky and craggly, I'm not feeling like that top star athlete, then you need to sit down and say, okay, what have I done wrong? And stretch yourself. I never would have hit $1 million personally in sales without doing things like going, I'm going to sell more river cruises this year, right? That's going to be what's going to be the deal. I'm going to focus on river cruises. I'm going to focus on expedition. I'm going to focus on, high end luxury. So shake it up a little bit, stretch yourself, and come up with a different shtick. The same old thing does get tiring. The great thing about the pandemic was I was able to go back to my years of having the radio and television show. And when I was trying to figure out how to be in touch with people during the pandemic, I did cooking demos every 2 weeks. And so I would literally do, cooking and cocktails, and I would have somebody that was well known in an industry come in the middle of my recipe demonstration that I was doing in my condo in downtown San Francisco in this tiny kitchen, right? I'm doing a cooking demo, and then somebody would come in and do, we would have one of the top people for Bank of America come in and make a cocktail for us, right? So it was just something a little different. It was great networking, within my sphere, helping other people be out there and out front as well. But it was really, really cool, and people loved it for 2 years. Well, then people were like back out and about, and so you have to change something a little different. But the most important thing is, once you get established, you need to be in front of your people 3 times a day. That's your social media, 3 posts a day. You need to have some sort of email communication with them, at least once a month, minus twice a month for my email newsletter with Branch Up. You need to do at least one mail piece to them every quarter. So I use a quarterly brochure that's offered through Westa, our consortia. And then you also need to do a quarterly call. Sometimes, I actually plan travel for over 1,000 individual households, so I can't necessarily touch base with everybody quarterly. But one thing I do is starting at Thanksgiving until New Year's, I sit down with my entire list of database and I call every single person, and I call them my holiday calls, and I call them and say, I'm just calling to say thank you. It's Philip, your travel agent, and I just wanted to say thank you. On reinventing yourself, that's a little, you'll notice that when we came up with Roaming Richly, we've not completely reinvented the brand, but I mean, if you look at my brand overall, we the Living Richly brands in 2009, and we've got Roaming Richly now. So, I'm always looking at a way to differentiate myself. Right now, we're not going to change our brand name, but we are refreshing our websites and doing all of that and trying to bring a little bit more contemporary content into it. So reinventing yourself can be a lot of different things. The most important thing, though, is that you actually listen to yourself. Because if you don't listen to yourself, 20 years into this business, you're going to be bored and you're going to be sick and tired of answering the phone. So you need to be making sure that your business is giving you what you want out of it. I have been to 40 some odd ports in the Caribbean. That is not something that really, is a huge, driver for me. So you aren't going to see me down there a lot, but I have a lot of clients who love it. So I need to stay current on it. At the same time, what floats my boat is going to some new country and having some new experience. So you are going to see me on the National Geographic Resolution in the Northwest Passage that I did just a month ago. You're going to see me going to Greece and Croatia because that fuels my spirit. That makes me excited about my industry, and that gives me a place to go and learn something new. And when you do that, you reinvent yourself automatically. So give yourself those experiences, and then get a social media, 2 times a month on email, quarterly direct mail, your calls, your 10-a-day calls, rinse and repeat.
All right, Philip, thank you so much for this time today. I don't think there was a better way to wrap up the year on this program. So thank you so much, Philip. Thank you to Michelle again from Branch Up for helping us kick off today and for sponsoring today's episode. And again, thank you to everyone who came out. I loved having you all this year. If you want to rewatch it again, Tom has the link to the YouTube, Travel Marker Part YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, you can go there and check it out again. Otherwise, hope everyone has a healthy and safe holiday, and we will see you in 2026.
And thank you, Dan and Tom, for bringing us this wonderful series that helps all of us be better at what we do.
Thank you.